to our topic extension. Today we're gonna be hello everybody. Welcome to our topic extension. Today we'll be presenting the application on institutional-based view in emerging market context. Okay, next slide. Firstly, we'll have a brief recap, then the relevance of the original model. Thirdly, the extension, the institution-based view in the emerging markets, and lastly, a conclusion. Okay, I'm gonna give my part to my colleague now.
Yeah, thank you. Now starting with a brief recap. Next slide, please. So yeah, starting with the institution-based strategy. The institution-based strategy is the third pillar to explain the performance. The other two pillars are the industry-based and the resource-based strategy, like PORTUS 5 and VRIN. So the institution-based strategy is so your firm is located in an industry which is located in a country, or it's a global country, and it's surrounded by institutions like, for example, there are formal and informal institutions. Formal are government and laws, for example, and informal public and media. And these are influencing the way you do business and how you perform in general. So the institution-based strategy helps you to understand similarities between firms and to identify inefficient behavior inside of a firm. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so non-market strategies are using these institutions to advantage your own firm and to disadvantage competitors, for example. And it's about changing the rules and to create new opportunities. So on the right, you can see this black chessboard. On the black chessboard on the bottom right, there are the PORTUS 5 and VRN happens there. So playing on the playing field with the rules, but the non-market strategies with the institutions are expanding it and tries to play it around them and try to find new ways, like maybe a new law or something like that. And yeah, it's analyzed. The non-market is analyzed through the 4 I's, like issues, institution, interest, and information. Issues, for example, is which the non-market strategy addresses. When Trump was president, there were a customs dispute between Europe and US, and Harley's got higher customs when imported to the EU. So yeah, that would be an issue for Harley, a non-market issue. So they would go to the institution, like the US government, and address this problem that the customs got raised. Interests are in general movements like climate change, women's rights, human rights, stuff like that. And information is what information of your company is known by the public, and you can, of course, blur them, like Wirecard did, and yeah, give fake information out, like fake annual report, for example. Next slide, please. So yeah, to engage with non-markets, there are 5 ways to do that. Increase, compromise, avoid, defy, and manipulate. So there are passive and active ways of doing that, and responsible positioning. A way of passive engagement is increase, for example, so you comply with the rules and yeah, accept them. Then an active way to engage is, example, to manipulate. So you influence institutions to, for example, pass a new law or abolish an old law, for example. And the importance of non-market strategy depends on your industry. So the closer you are to the market, the less you are dependent on them. So if you are producing consumer electronics or software, you are really close to the market and you're not really influenced by it. But if you are closer to the government, for example, if you're producing biotech or telecommunications, you're very influenced by these institutions, the government. Yeah. Next slide. So yeah, now to come to the relevance of this model. The question is the institutional-based view relevant? And yes, it definitely is. So it's the newest strategy model. It's newer than PORTUS 5 and VRIN. It helps to enhance firms' competitiveness in emerging markets and existing markets, but especially in emerging markets. We will hear about it later on. And yeah, it helps to analyze different rules and different habits in other regions. So what might be normally in China isn't done in Europe. For example, in China, they are meeting up, also different companies are meeting up to talk about prices, and this would be illegal in Germany because it's unfair. And nowadays you cannot focus anymore on only industry-based and resource-based strategy because institutions are getting more and more important. New movements arise, like the climate change movement gains more popularity, and it gains more and more relevance through globalization, and it's affecting more industries because they are globalizing. Now, moving on.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Zino. Hi, everyone. I'm Antam. And moving on to what have also adding to what have Zino explained, that we are asking, like, we're kind of developing the relevancy of the emerging market. So here we believe that there should be like an extension of topic in analyzing the institution-based view in the emerging market. So next, please. So there are no specific, so there are many definitions based on different sources about the emerging markets, but we can see that here in the graph that there are a significant trend that on the past few years, there is a significant increase in terms of world GDP from emerging market countries compared to advanced countries. Next, please. So this is where they're all, this is also in detail about the FDI and outward FDI from each of the so-called emerging countries with a very high economic growth, and the rise of emerging economies on the worldwide stage at about the same time afford great opportunities to extend and develop the institution-based view. So the trend of this country that is currently recently emerged have trigger the discussions of analyzing the institution-based view specifically in terms of these emerging markets. So next, please. And therefore, there are some notable, in addition, there are some notable institutional characteristics of these emerging markets in compared to more advanced economies, such as they are more non-transparent political and regulatory environment. There are more young population and demographic, increasing urbanization, people moving into the city, middle class that like to spend a lot, and a growing demand for consumer goods and infrastructure development, prevalence of state-owned firms, and low to moderate degree of political freedom, as well as moderate to high level of government intervention in business. So this institutional characteristic, most of them present in the emerging market in compared to the advanced economy. So next, please. And therefore, this is the key insight of the emerging market and their distinct characteristic and country institution. They are very distinct compared to the advanced economy. So next, please. So we want to expand the theory. We want to expand and we want to extend the topic extension and the emerging market specifically by stating that these are the statement from Wang as well, Peng. It's not cited there, but a failure to understand the institutional nature of principal conflict governing the corporation in emerging economies may make corporate governance policy irrelevant, counterproductive, and in worst case disastrous. So what is trying to prove here that there are needs, there are argument that it is necessary to find the relevancy in applying the institution-based theory on emerging market context. So next, please. So how should we exactly put institutional strategy in emerging markets? So from the paper that we put as a benchmark, that the references will also put at the beginning of the slide, is that there are three types. There are main institutional strategies in emerging market: a relational strategy, infrastructure building, and socio-cultural bridging strategies. So next one, please. So the first one is a relational strategy in which the action and activities to make a relationship with the political bodies and key stakeholder group. So this is mainly known in China as guanxi, or like kind of building up a relationship with a government or non-government, even a non-government stakeholder group. And this is to to cultivate interpersonal network and social capital as substitutes for weak market structure and underdeveloped regulatory and legal infrastructure, because they are a very weak market and regulatory structure. Building relationship can be found as something favorable in the emerging market context. So next one. So in addition, there are also infrastructure building strategies. This is like can be in physical infrastructure and market infrastructure, and technology infrastructure that is relatively less developed in the emerging market. It is to engage in collective organizing to pursue and promote infrastructure development, and hopefully to develop informal mechanism and standard decision strategies for addressing the institutional voids that apparently exist mostly more severely in the emerging markets. So, and next, please. And the last one argued that the social cultural bridging strategies is also important because there are relatively many cultural differences between advanced economy and the emerging market economies, as well as there are some issues including like political heritage, historical heritage, and the action and activities taken to address the social, cultural, and demographic issues and challenges which shape the competitive environment can be seen as a strategies that is useful in applying the institutional based strategies in terms of development can be found as something useful. So next, please. Yeah, so these are the three key insights of applying the institutional based strategy in the market. Like company need to build a relational government or non-government that can help them make the business better. They can push the government to build an infrastructure. They can even build themselves infrastructure based from the company through their CSR or their CPA. And also, they can also bridge social cultural bridging by also conducting several CSR or CPA activities. So next.
Yes, thank you. Okay, now I will continue and talk about the application of these emerging markets and how can they be used in real life. So when it comes to relational strategies, as my partner said, creating a formal and informal relationship usually helps. In the case of China and very often Middle Eastern countries, creating a bond is not only important but sometimes necessary. It sometimes takes from weeks to months until you gain the relationship and trust of a political body. However, this will have if done correctly, this will create a very specific advantage, and the company will be trusted to condone business. Next, a very important strategy is the infrastructure building. So better infrastructure is, of course, always better for every company. Having a better infrastructure means that the supplier, the retailer, and all the parts of the supply chain move quicker and have a better performance. And overall, this makes it so that the business could be condoned faster, and the customer could receive their services and products faster. And also, when it comes to social cultural bridging strategies, the improvement in the local communities affects bond reliability and improves the market. So what that really means is that the local communities, when seeing that the companies in terms try to bridge the gaps maybe between social inequality or creating just a better infrastructure, schools, or any way that sees fit for a community may would increase the trust that the community does give the firm, and also put their roots in the country or the area, so that the firm can condone businesses better and have the reliability over the people, and yeah, improve the market for everybody. So to conclude, firstly, we talked about the institution-based strategies and how it really just is the third pillar, which is also put into categories, which is formal and informal institutions that actually explain the performance of the firm. And it really helps companies and managers understand how businesses are similar in a specific area, although they might be in a bit more of a different industry, but it shows how they should be approached if wanted to, you know, put a subsidiary in a new area. Also, we mentioned non-market-based strategies with the use of institutions to a firm's advantage. Yeah, these institutions can be very out of the box and usually affects other firms negatively since they cannot actually get this advantage. So these are type of the strategies that we talked about. Also, the institutional based view we included that it is relevant, especially in the globalizing world where companies need to understand how to conduct businesses, not only selling the product, but also making the customers feel like it's um, it's actually applied to their needs and their local popular way of doing business. So managers should be able to understand the do's and don'ts of doing business abroad and apply this knowledge, and will likely have much more success. As for emerging markets, as we talked, the emerging markets are continuing to improve economically, uh, just having a great economic growth year in and year out. And yeah, uh, companies need to learn how to apply the institution-based view. Uh, for the examples we gave is the relational strategy, infrastructure building strategies, and social cultural bridging strategies are one of the most important, especially in the emerging markets. Um, these will create much better trust between the firm and the consumer, and this way uh, help escalate and increase the market share of the company and uh, start to do more subsidiaries, which would overall have a better effect on the business. Thank you everybody for watching our presentation, and have a nice day.